Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to go over how to do the homework on frequency distributions and group statistics. So this is an Excel homework and the instructions are here in this text box. The data that is in this file is all of the sections that are currently being offered by SU this semester, taken from section search on MyNest, and I did personally scrape and clean this myself, which was a lot of work, but it's interesting data. So for the first part here, we're going to make a pie chart by following these instructions, and then you have to do a little bit of commentary and some formatting at the end. So we're going to click on any cell in the table, just anywhere here, and we're going to insert a pivot table. So for the Windows version of Excel, I go to Insert, and then I can just click this pivot table button here, and I'm going to select the option to put it in a new sheet, which is the default option. Okay, so now I'm going to copy my instructions over to this new sheet, and I'll call this part 1 for this tab. Okay, so now I'm going to click on any cell. No, wait, where am I? I'm here. Okay, click anywhere in the pivot table, which is this like empty box over here, to get the pivot table fields menu to appear, which is this. Click and drag. Let me make this a little smaller. Okay, click and drag days under rows. So the days variable is here. I'm going to bring it down here under days, or sorry, under rows. And then I'm going to click and drag course prefix under the values area. So the reason I'm doing that and I'm not doing days instead is because actually some courses have a blank for days. There's actually 20 courses that have nothing recorded under days for that variable. Most of them should at least have times TBD if they didn't have a set days, but there's actually 20 that just somehow like slip through the cracks and have nothing. And I kind of wanted to just like see that that was the case by using a variable for values that every single course has a value for, which is course prefix. So what's happening here with this values area and course prefix is what's actually being counted is the number of rows that just had any answer at all recorded under course prefix, and then they're being categorized according to the value that they had for days, if that makes sense. So we've done up to number 2. So now we're going to insert a pie chart from the pivot table. So I'm just going to click anywhere on my pivot table, go to Insert, and then pie chart. If you had inserted a pivot table, or sorry, a pivot chart from the beginning, you could also just change the chart type for that to be a pie chart. So here is the pie chart that I get. This is the default styling that it gave me. Now I do want to point out something. Look under days here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different colors showing, but there's more than 7 pie slices here. So this is just something that happens when you had a lot of values that you're doing the pie slices by, is you might actually have to make this like pretty big to show them all. And it's kind of messy to look at. So you kind of start to wish you had like an other category or something like that. But if you want an other category, I don't know of a way to do it automatically. There might be some way, but I don't know what it is. So for our purposes, this is what we have. Now you could just filter some of these out, or you could create like a new variable that has like days simplified or something like that, where you just put other for these smaller ones. But for right now, this is what we have. So there's 3 large pie slices, and it's a little bit hard to use this legend here. So instead of using that, I think I put the instruction here. Add data labels so that we can read how many sections are in each pie slice. So I wanted you guys to, if you right-click, let's see, if I right-click on a pie slice, I think I have add data labels, and that just tells you how many sections are in each pie slice. It would probably be more useful to have what is called the callout. So let me undo that. Data labels, data callouts. So that labels like what each pie slice was and what percentage of the sections fall into it. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes, 26% of classes are Monday, Wednesday, Friday. 28% of classes have no days, they're TBD. 22% are Tuesday, Thursday. I think this is still not a very good chart overall. Like, it's pretty hard to read. It needs some improvement, but oh well. All right. There's always more options and settings that you can change, but we'll just stick with this for the homework. So for the last instruction here, oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong part here. For the last instruction, we're going to write 1 to 2 sentences explaining what this pie chart tells us about classes at SU. So what this is telling me is that the great majority of classes are either Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday. This is brown slice, or they have TBD, which is probably really mysterious to you guys, but I'll tell you in a minute what those classes tend to be. So I'll just write about 26% of classes are on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. What was Tuesday, Thursday? 22%, 22% on Tuesday, Thursday, and 28% are TBD, meaning no set days. And the rest are a variety of days. Okay, that's a pretty good summary, I think. Okay, so now for the next part, we're going to go back to the clean data sheet. So I'll go ahead and go back there. All right, so now we're going to do a stacked bar chart. And to start with, we're just going to create a new pivot table in a new sheet, just to kind of keep things clean. So I'll get insert, pivot table, new sheet, and I'll call this part 2. And I'm just going to copy my instructions here again. Maybe let me delete the parts that are not part 2 so I'm not getting confused here. Okay, so now let's see, what do we need to do? So for number 2 here, click anywhere on the pivot table to get the pivot table fields menu to appear. And then we're going to click and drag days under rows. So days is here. And then level under columns. So that's there. And then we're going to click and drag course prefix under values. And again, that's something we can use to count every section since every section has a course prefix. Okay, now we're going to use the drop-down menu next to row labels to filter so that only days with 50 or more sections are shown. Yeah, so we kind of want to like not show all of these different types of days, but looking at the total number of sections in each category, we want to only show the ones that are 50 or more. So there's a couple of ways to do this. One way to do it is using this row labels thing here. You could just start unchecking the ones that aren't big enough. Like the first one here for Friday class is there's only 12 classes that meet just on Friday, so we could uncheck that and then just kind of like keep going like that. That's pretty time consuming. So let me undo that. There's a way to do it all at once, actually automatically, if you use value filters greater than or equal to. So if I go to this row labels drop down and then value filters and then greater than or equal to, read really carefully here what it's saying. Show items for which count of course prefix is greater than or equal to, and we want to put here 50. So we're going to only show items for which the count of the course prefix, which is the thing we're using to count sections, is greater than or equal to 50. Okay, so as soon as I click OK here, we're only going to have left the entries here of 202, 174, and 219. Okay, so we're just looking at the popular values for the days here. All right, so that was number 3. And now we're going to insert a stacked bar chart from this pivot table, and then we'll write some sentences about it. So insert, it's probably under columns here. So bar is the horizontal ones. It literally says the word bar right here. And we want the stacked bar, which is the middle option there. Okay, so here is our stacked bar chart. And now we're going to write 2 to 3 sentences about what this bar chart is telling us about classes at SU, when they're held, and the differences between classes held on different days. So I did put a few notes here to just kind of try to explain like what some of these things mean if you're not familiar. The course level, like this less than 100, 100s, 200s, 300s, 400s, 500s, 600s to 700s, and other, that is coming from the like what you call this, like the course code, like Math-108, the 108 part there. That means it's a 100 level course, which means it's supposed to be easier than a 200 level or above. And then for the times TBD, again, that means there's no specific time when the course is scheduled to be held. If you go back and look at this data sheet here, if you're like wondering why these are like this, if you look at the ones where days, if we just filter this to only show times TBD, we can see what kind of classes these are. So look at the titles of the classes here. It's like independent study, senior thesis, senior portfolio, research explorations, independent study, practicum, right? So you guys see what these kinds of classes are that have no set times. It's basically classes where like you're just not doing it at a set time. And then there's a whole bunch of music lesson ones too, where like it's just arranged between the teacher and the student. So it's also kind of like an independent study. It's basically like one-on-one classes. And the reason why there's so many of them is because if you go over here under the number of students to see how many students are typically in these classes, look at these numbers. 1, 1, 1, 1, 0. I don't even know how that happened. Yeah, so like these are really small classes for the most part, one or maybe a handful of students, which is why there's so many of them, because oftentimes you have one course per student. And then they're basically like internship, practicum, independent study type of classes. Okay, so anyway, I'm going back to part 2 here. Right, we need to write some sentences about what this bar chart is telling us, about classes, when they're held, and the differences between classes held on different days. Okay, so just looking at this bar chart, I see that the second 2 bars look kind of similar. Like the color pattern here looks kind of similar, except the orange part on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday is a lot longer. Monday, Wednesday, Friday as a whole is also longer, so that's something I could talk about. It looks like there's a little over 200 sections that are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and about, what's this, between 150 and 200. It looks like it's about halfway between 150 and 200, so maybe around 175 sections that are Tuesday, Thursday. And then the most popular, more than 200 sections that have a TBD time. So I guess maybe I'll just comment on the like total length of the bars first. So the most popular days or sections are times TBD, no days, which has more than 200 sections. Then Monday, Wednesday, Friday sections have about 200 sections. I don't think I'm grammaring very well. I'm sorry, guys. It's like the end of the day here. The end of the day on Friday, too. And Tuesday, Thursday have about 175 sections. It looks like the breakdown of levels within Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday, Thursday are pretty similar. Except the main difference I think I see is like this blue part here and the orange part. So the orange is much shorter on Tuesday, Thursday compared to Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the blue is much longer on Tuesday, Thursday compared to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And the orange here is 100 level classes from over here, and the blue is 300 level classes. So that's, I don't know what that means really, but it's something we can see, so we'll just kind of describe it. Okay, so except that Monday, Wednesday, Friday has a lot more 100 level classes, and Tuesday, Thursday has a lot more 300 level classes. There's also some difference, like with the little brown part here and stuff. Other, like no assigned level is like some Go courses don't have a course level at all. Like if you look at this Oh, let me unfilter this clear filter. If you look at the course number on the clean data sheet, there's course numbers where there is no number. It's like, it literally just says Iceland or Morocco for the course number. It's really strange looking. Okay, anyway. So I think we're past 2 to 3 sentences already, but we should definitely comment on the times TBD bar because it looks completely different from the other ones. It looks like times TBD is almost all less than 100 level courses, which I think those are the music lessons mostly, and then this bright green, which is 500 level courses. So 500 level courses, those are the ones that are usually like internship, independent study, practicum, and you can see more of them if you look back. If you like filter this to just 500s, you can see what kind of courses they are. Seminars, independent research, student research, forum, stuff like that. So that's why those don't have set times. The times TBD bar has mostly less than 100 level and 500 level classes. So we can't really put into this description like why or our speculation about why these things are. I'm just asking for you guys to describe what the bar chart itself tells you, and you can't see from the bar chart itself like the reason for any of these things. I was just kind of explaining that to you guys in case you were curious. Okay, so that is part 2. And now let's go back to the clean data sheet to do part 3. Let me unfilter this. It's kind of hard to unfilter sometimes. You know you have a filter on because you see these blue labels over here for the rows that are skipping around. But then you have to like find which drop-down menu has the filter on it and clear it. Okay, now where the heck did my text box go? It has to be here somewhere. Okay, well, I think I still have a copy of it back in my part 1 sheet. You guys can always re-download the file from Canvas too. Okay, let me put this back here. All right, so for part 3, is go back to the clean data sheet and insert another pivot table. Okay, so we're going to do that. And it's going to be on another new sheet, which I'll call part 3. Okay, and then I'm going to copy this instructions there again. And I'm just going to delete the other parts so I don't get confused because it's the end of Friday and I will get confused easily. Okay, so now we're going to click and drag level underneath rows. And then we're going to click and drag students under values. Students. And then we're also going to put start time under values. Start time. Okay, so now, oops, what happened here? Let me make this a little bigger. Why did... Oh, mysteriously, this values one appeared under columns. I'm not going to worry about that. I think it happened automatically. And I guess it's referring to the fact that these columns over here are like they're for 2 different values, sum of students and count of start time. I guess that's fine with me. Okay, so now what we need to do is under the values area, use the drop-down menu next to each variable and click value field settings. Change count to average for each variable. So I'll click on the table again to make this appear. And then next to each thing down here under values, actually this one is sum, not count, but I'm still going to change that using value field setting. I'm going to change it to average because I want to know the average number of students in each class. And then I'll do the same for the start time. I'll change that to average. Okay, so now the table is showing the average of students and the average of start time for each level of class. But the average of start time is probably in the wrong format. Yeah, these don't look like start times to me. I don't know what they are. So we're going to select all the cells in the table under average of start time and change the number format to time. So up here in the home tab or the home menu, under number, little drop-down menu for format, we'll change this to time. There are actually more options than this if you don't like the way it looks. Like if you want a shorter time that doesn't show the seconds, you can use this little expand, or wait, no, where is it? Oh yeah, the more number formats option. And then under the time category, there's more formats here. So maybe I'll do the shorter time. This looks a little more understandable to me. Same deal with like the average of students. If this looks confusing to you, you can tuck in the decimal places until you're able to understand it better. That looks better to me. Okay, so now write 2 to 3 sentences commenting about what this table tells you about the number of students in the different levels of classes and about what times the different levels of classes tend to start at. Okay, so what we're seeing here in this table is the average number of students in each section that is a less than 100 level section. So apparently these sections have really few students in them, which actually makes sense because I think they're almost all music lesson sections. But we can't tell that they're music lesson sections from this table. We can just tell that they have a very small number of students, only 6.6 on average. And then we see that the largest number of students is for 100 level classes. 200 level is almost as large. There's a big drop between 200 and 300 level. We go down to 13.9. And then for 400 level classes, which is like roughly senior level, we're at less than 10 students on average, which is really cool, actually. For 500 level, which, like I told you guys before, it's like internships and independent studies, we have another really small number. 600s to 700s, those are actually master's level education classes. Those are the only master's level classes we offer. So those are really small as well. And then those are mostly things like the Go classes, like Go reflection and stuff. So those are very small as well. All right, so now let's write some sentences. Just so kind of the broad trend is the largest average number of students, 21.6, is for 100 level classes. 200 level have almost as large of an average. Then there's a big drop to 300 level with an average of 13.9. 400 level have another big drop to 9.5. As for the rest of the levels, they all average about, I think the rest of these are all like kind of similar, 6.6, 5.0, 3.8, 4.9. So let's just say about like 3 to 6, maybe 3 to 7 students. Okay, I think that pretty much summarizes it. That was more sentences than we needed, but whatever. And then the starting times of the classes over here. So focusing mostly on the 100s to 400s, we can see 100s have the earliest average starting time. You know that a lot of classes start in the morning and a lot start in the afternoon, so like to be kind of halfway between kind of makes sense, like around noon. And then 200 level classes are about the same, just a few minutes later. And then 300s and 400s, they really go a lot further into the afternoon, so much more afternoon heavy. I have no idea why that is. 500s and less than 100s are about the same, around 1 p.m. Again, I really don't know why that is. Most of those classes would have a times TBD, like no set time. So maybe the ones that do have set times are of a particular type. I don't know. And then these master's level classes are mostly evening classes. So averages to start like really late, like after the school day, because most people taking those would be teachers, I think. And then other, like the Go reflection classes, yeah, those are usually night classes as well. Okay, but we can't tell we can't tell reasons for things, so I'm just going to describe what I see. So as for the average start times, the 100 to 400 level classes are all around noon to 1 p.m. With 300 to let's say 100 to 200 right around noon, and 300 to 400 around 12:40 p.m. The 100s and 500s are around 1 p.m. and the 600s, the 700s, and other are around 5:30 p.m. Okay, So that is it for this homework, and you'll have a quiz next time that'll be similar to this. See you then.